and thanks for tuning in. I wanted to remind you of our Road to 1,000 Subscribers giveaway that we have going on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe and have a public profile, you'll be entered to win a free RX Smart Gear original jump rope. You'll get to pick the pattern of the handles, the color and weight of the cable, and you'll be getting one of the best-selling, best-performing jump ropes out there. Every time we hit a new century mark with the number of subscribers to our channel, we'll randomly select a new winner. And our friend Dave Newman is going to throw in a little something extra for each winner. So a special thanks to our sponsor, RX Smart Gear, to Dave Newman for being such a great partner, and to you for being a loyal listener. Good luck, and I hope you are our next winner.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Clydesdale Fitness and Friends. My name is Scott Schweitzer. I am the Clydesdale. I'm your host. We love to do fitness, and these are my friends. And I have two special friends with me today. It is Katharine and Dave, and forgive me, I don't even know your last name.
Katharine Butler.
And Dave Charlton.
So they are the founders and owners of Fantasy Fitnessing. If you have not played that, it is awesome. I've been doing it for a while now, and it's becoming an addiction for me.
Yeah, you were definitely one of our first players, which was awesome and big for us to see. A podcaster join and jump on board. So it was exciting to see.
So what we're going to do is find out how these two got into CrossFit. So how was that? What was it that brought you into CrossFit in the first place?
Well, like us actually doing CrossFit is I wanted to do it actually longer, like before I actually started, but I was home with kids and just wasn't sure about starting CrossFit and daycare and stuff like that. And then we moved communities. And then our eldest daughter actually became friends with the owner of the CrossFit gym that I was thinking of going to. So she started going to like kids CrossFit classes. And I was like, well, I've actually been wanting to like do this. And now she's going, so I should go. So then the foundations there was like I think it was 6 weeks at the time. So I did the foundations and then Dave did foundations. And then all four of us have done CrossFit, both our kids and us now.
Yeah, Katharine was certainly a closet CrossFit fan. Like she was more on Instagram. And so I know like more of a background. I remember, I think it was like 2017 or 2018 regional. She was watching it on her phone. I was like, it's a nice day. It's finally spring here. Like, let's go out, take your kids to the park. And she was enthralled by these exercise races. I'm like, this is silly. You can watch. We'll go to the park. And then we watched like the Redeem and Dominant came out a couple weeks later. And like, I'm always down for a good sports documentary. So we watched it. I'm like, oh, this was pretty exciting. So that came down to the race between like Tia and Kara in that final event. So I was pretty hooked that way. I guess it was probably 2018. And then we watched the games that summer and I was pretty much hooked. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I got to do this. And so, we talked to our neighbors across the street there and they got us signed up for foundations, and that's kind of jumped in that way.
And now I'm not the only crazy person watching people exercise.
Yes. It dovetailed quite rapidly.
It's those doggone documentaries, man. It snatches us all right in.
Yeah. They're so good.
Yeah. So what were your fitness goals when you first started up? Had you always been involved in fitness or was this something new for you?
I had kind of always been athletic, like growing up was always in all the different sports and stuff. Played college basketball and that. And then just through having kids and stuff, I was just really out of shape. So going to CrossFit was actually like super scary, but I knew the people that owned it. I knew like our neighbor, Christy, she was the one that was coaching the 9:30 class. They had childcare so I could bring the kids. And it was just be able to move around better for our kids was my goal. Cause they were tiring, man, still are, but whatever. That's another topic.
Yeah, I like how you nonchalantly said played college basketball, like it was no big deal.
It was just kind of athletic.
Yeah. Humble brag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like from my perspective, it was just and I played sports at a lower level than Katharine growing up, but again, like always active and always part of it. And then for a while, or I guess still to this point, we only have one car. And so I cycled everywhere and kind of transitioned into just being kind of a cyclist build, and wanted to get back more into the strength training. Did stuff at a gym in the office, but never really got into it. And so just seeing, again, like the CrossFit Games totally sold me on it. Seeing the athletic capability of all those athletes, I'm like, that's something that appealed. So like the strength and gymnastics and athleticism was really, to go from kind of just a cardio focus to being an all-around athlete again was the draw for me.
So Dave, you cycled a lot. Are you one of the few that like the assault bike in a workout?
Yeah, I think I like it because I'm good at it. There is not a lot that I can hang my hat on at being good. So when there's an assault bike, I'll take it because I'm able to hold a fairly fast pace and then catch up that way. So yeah, I'm one of the weirdos from that perspective.
Yeah, I like it for about 20 seconds. If it's like a 15-calorie thing, I stand up with my Clydesdale body and I crank it out in like 15 seconds. And then I stumble off the bike and usually pass out somewhere in the next movement.
Yeah.
So did you ever like go attend events in person? Once you became a fan, was that possible? Cause you guys are based in Canada, correct?
Yeah, we're in Calgary, Alberta. No, the one event that a few people since we've joined the gym have gone to was Can West, like the sort of pre-sanctional version of it that was in Vancouver. I think kind of contemplated it, but with kids and stuff, it was just not sort of a priority to go. So the first live competition that is like an elite level that I'd been to was Wodapalooza when I saw you just in January.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That was a big first one.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. I would say that it may be the biggest of all the ones I've been to, and I've been to the games.
Yeah.
Wodapalooza is crazy. Like you cannot describe it to people properly. Because people have
especially
tried over the years.
Normal
Yeah.
people that don't understand CrossFit, they're like, "Oh, how's your trip to Miami?" I was like, "You have no idea what I just did," but it was awesome. It was great.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any any events that you have a big desire to get to at some point?
Hopefully the games.
Yeah, I think the games are the big one. I don't know, all of them.
All of them? Yeah.
It'd be fun from a travel perspective to get down to West Coast Classic or Granite, I don't know. Actually, they're not semifinals this year, so I actually don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah, we don't know what the semifinals are. They could be.
Yeah, they could be unnamed. So depending on travel, it could be nice to get down to a semifinal this year. Just proximity, they'd be a lot easier. Potentially Atlas this year as well, just because traveling within Canada is easier than crossing the border at the moment. But really it'd be fun to get to any that we could.
So how far is Atlas from you?
It's about a 5-hour flight. So
oh wow.
Think of us we're right above Montana. So Montana, Idaho border to say New York would kind of be the distance there. So it's a bit of a flight. So
wow. Yeah, I know Montreal's way up there. But I didn't know how far. My Canadian geography is not what I would say A1. I'm lucky that I know US geography.
Yeah, so yeah, we're Calgary, which is just east of the Rocky Mountains. So probably I think it's probably pretty in line with Salt Lake from a east-west perspective. Okay.
So what was it that made you think, hey, I want to create something in this space that people can enjoy?
Yeah, ended up I know the original idea was kind of that lull before, a Metcon starts, when like somebody must have been still loading their barbell and just kind of waiting for the clock to get set up. And I was, thought like, I was probably thinking about my fantasy football team. I was like, hey, what about fantasy CrossFit? Like, it was right when the second season of sanctionals came up. So there was kind of an extended season similar to golf, and thought it was, a fun way, or it could be a fun way to help follow the season and the athletes. There's so many events going on. It was something from a fan's perspective that you could follow along and have some fun with, and learn about all the different athletes from that perspective. So it was, started out as an idea from more of a fan's perspective, as a way to follow along and learn something about all the athletes.
Yeah, through the sanctional section, it was just so hard to know who was where and who's competing and who's actually like an up and comer, and because the strength of all the different competitions was so different.
And then you were hit with COVID the first year you tried to do it.
Yeah, I think we ran,
6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
We got into it. So so it started to get a lot of momentum, and then COVID hit and everything shut down for an extended period of time till the games rolled around. So it was a tough first start, but I think, we learned a lot and different approaches we could take through all the different events. So that was a good learning experience, kind of in a lower key type of situation.
And it also gave us a lot of time to load a whole bunch of athlete data, because there was no competitions going on. So to kind of build out sort of the athlete stat database that we have, the break kind of gave us time to do that.
I apologize for coughing. I'm trying to mute. I'm allergic to my dog, and we're trying to figure out the right medication to get me through all this. But I've been a fantasy football player for a very, very long time. Was that the natural progression? Is that where the idea came from?
It would imagine so. Just being a fantasy player, for fantasy football player, I should say, and really just our interest as fans in sports. Like, when we watch a sport, we're both pretty much all in terms of knowing it, and so it just gave us a opportunity or an excuse, depending on how it goes, to dive in and learn about the athletes, and really just build out that knowledge and the types of things that we would want to see as fans of being able to go somewhere and see everybody's past event history and everything they've done, and the competition season. So it definitely spurred from kind of the idea of fantasy football, but really just helped us from a fan perspective.
Yeah, just tried to sort of fill the gap in what was out there for CrossFit, of like comparing athletes together and doing a lot of the stats kind of stuff that we pull, to just be like, I want to know this. So then we built sort of fantasy around getting other people to care to know it too. It's sort of an interest-based thing.
I think what's awesome is I think it's actually a way to grow the sport.
100%.
Like, more than just grow fans, but grow fans, because that will help grow the sport, because it gives a fan a vested interest in the outcome of the event. So they're going to tune in for longer to see if their athletes do well in that event.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole purpose of fantasy sports. Get more buy-in.
Right. I had a discussion with Matt OKeefe when I had him on my podcast about gambling and fantasy sports being an integral part of advancing the sport forward. And he was in agreement that fantasy sports could play a huge role in getting CrossFit to grow.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Scott. Is just, again, like, to draw parallels to fantasy football. Like, before you played fantasy football, I think you're a Bears fan. So you probably knew the Bears, NFC North, and the stars around the league. But like, once you play fantasy football, everybody. Like, like the slot receiver for the Colts, or other teams that you would never think you would be watching before. But then all of a sudden, you're randomly cheering for kicker out of Tampa Bay to get you some points on Monday night so you can beat your friends. Like having that type of, interest in CrossFit, can only help grow the sport. Like if you're, sitting there and having athletes, if I heard you saying Jay Crouch, like if he can beat Chandler Smith in the final event of the games and you have bragging rights, all your friends, when Jay pulls through, you're all of a sudden the world's biggest Jay Crouch fan. He's always going to have that special place in your heart because, you got bragging rights because of it. And so it really creates an opportunity to get more fans and to learn about more athletes, which then just, comes this circular workflow where, more fans come in, more eyeballs, gives more, fans and followers for the athletes in the sport. So they're able to attract more sponsorship dollars. And then just that brings higher quality athletes, which brings more fans in. So if we can, play a part in that to, help, attract more people to the sport so the level of the athletes can come in, like it's a benefit for everybody as it comes around.
So way back, probably 2015, 16, somewhere in there, my gym did a fantasy CrossFit league and it was super simplified. Nowhere as complex as what you guys have put together. But Travis Mayer won me the league that year. And now like I fanboy over him when he comes on the show because like I am attached to him because he did that for me to win that league. So what I think is great is that you guys have taken like a simple concept and you've made it pretty cool. Like you get points for every event, like at the games or Wadapalooza. If there are the games, 15 events last year, you get points for all 15 events, depending on how your athletes do over the course of those 15 events. Do you want to explain how it kind of works for our listeners?
Yeah, so I guess we got different formats just depending on the weekends and we go through. So kind of the most popular one we have, which we run for the games, call it our salary cap challenge. So ahead of the games, every athlete that's competing in it has a price associated to them. Generally ranges from $80 down to 10, just based off of the past history of the athlete. And then everybody who participates has a $250 budget to go through and pick their team. So if you want, Tia Toomey, because she's your favorite, and you can take her and have that. But you just kind of based off that $250, you got to pick 3 men and 3 women athletes to fill out your team, and then the points that they earn over the course of the weekend is the score of your team. And so lots of options for people to play. They can, always pick their favorites and then fill out the roster with some, people that they are athletes they might not know enough about or not yet anyways, and create some new fans throughout the weekend.
You created a draftable league too, correct? Where you and your friends can draft members and you'd be the only person with that person you drafted. And then you keep track of the score for the teams on that way as well, correct?
Yeah, that's a newer game option that we did launch. I think we just launched it in the fall. So with the salary cap challenge, you're competing against everybody globally with it who chooses to sign up. So we kind of have our overall leaderboard. But for a smaller group of friends, you just wanted to get together for each of the different competitions out there, you're able to do a draft league. So like you said, if you random pick, get the first pick overall, you can choose Tia, and then again, similar to that with 3 men, 3 women to fill out your team that way. So that's a fun way with a smaller group of friends to compete that each person can only be selected once, and makes it a little bit more competitive and some more strategy in real time that you can do with your buddies.
And either way, you can create little leagues. We were able to create a page, the Clydesdale CrossFit and Friends, or whatever, Clydesdale Fitness and Friends podcast page. I went back to my original name. I don't know what the heck happened there. We create a page, and then the people that listen to us, their scores show up in that, and you get to compete against me and Kat and Amy and Charlie. and see how you fare against us. And usually you fare better than we do. So that's fun there. So what is your goal for the future with this?
More people playing more games. Just, bringing up all the athletes in the sport as a whole. Like the one thing with the salary cap game is that you'll probably end up having to choose an athlete that you're not that sure who it actually is, which is fun. And then people that pick like Lucy Campbell at Wadapalooza, they hit their like cheaper pick, gets them a ton of points. So it's part of like how we set that game up is to bring up those other athletes that don't have a million followers on Instagram and not everybody knows, but to make them like buy in to some other athletes that they don't know. And just bring up the athletes and the sport and I don't know, have some fun, be competitive with your friends.
Yeah.
Do you ever have an athlete reach out to you and go, what do you mean I'm only worth $20?
We've had a partner of an athlete tell us that someone was too cheap. And other like analysts and different people have told us that we have athletes that are overpriced or underpriced. But that's kind of the fun of fantasy sports is like, if you see somebody that's like super cheap and you think they're going to go off that weekend, pick them, build their team around them, talk about it with all your buddies. That's the cheat code.
That's how you win these things.
Yeah.
That's the cheat code. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantasy sports. So,
and if you see someone you think's overpriced, don't buy them.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just to get people to engage in different ways throughout the season and have some fun.
So do either of you have the knowledge to build this, whatever it is you have that enables us to be able to pick and put the teams together and score it? Do one of you have the knowledge that built that?
Yeah. So I do have a background in computer science and spent a career working in CrossFit. So it was just a little project I was just dabbling in on the side, just started to build it up. And then fortunately, Katharine thought it was also a good idea and started telling people and kind of pushed it over the edge to make it see the light of day. But yeah, so it's Katharine does, almost all the social media and data side of it, where I'm more of the back end coding the pieces together.
Who's better at picking teams?
Oh, probably Dave.
Yeah.
I think I've done well once, or I usually do well for like a little bit, and then my team falls apart.
Because Katharine's more in the data, she tends to overanalyze each week, where I'm more of a think fast and just set the team. So
I'm like changing my roster until the minute that there's the cutoff. and if I had just like sat with my first team, I probably would do better.
Yeah, I have the disadvantage of I'm always traveling right before the event. So when like say Bethany Shadburn gets COVID and can't compete at the games, then she's stuck in my lineup and I'm getting 0 points the entire week.
Yeah. There's a lot of that's the handling of like the withdrawals and different things like that is kind of something that we're still sort of working through, but in a way, like going back to like that's fantasy sports is if you don't know that your wide receiver is out and you put him in your lineup, he's in your lineup. Like that kind of thing is sort of just what happens.
Although that is a good growth area to see from the sport, from kind of a professionalism standpoint, to see even with Wadapalooza, like there's a bunch of people that you're ending up dropping or withdrawing that just no showed. So I think from a sport to professionalize and kind of grow up a bit, I think that's something that there is a lot of room for potential to see, that publicized, to see who withdraws in advance and who, if there's a backfill or who the actual finalized athletes are, to see from a fan perspective, to know who's going to be there and why they're going to be there. It's unfortunate that injuries do occur, but to have a bit more from a publicity standpoint to see that out there, I think could be a room for improvement in CrossFit as a whole.
Yeah. I want to come back to that in a second. But I want to talk about your data before we move on to some other announcements we're going to make. And that is, you guys have this back end data, and you talked about it during COVID, that you compiled. And I believe you have every competition from 2016 forward.
Yes. Yeah. We've also loaded, so within each competition, we've actually loaded the event data as well, except for 2 competitions that were missing event data from 2019.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've loaded everything. When we first started, Brian Friend actually reached out and shared some spreadsheets with us, which is where those 2 events that have been populated from, was what he kind of shared. And then that got us moving. And then I dug deeper and pulled all those leaderboards and reformatted it and set it up in a way that then Dave could load it into the database.
Well,
really, necessitate being able to follow it and learn to know where somebody was from all the different sanctionals and regionals in the past to help it through. So it was an undertaking, but at least from a personal perspective, it was worth it to be able to look at it.
And I like doing stuff like that. It was fun.
Yeah, I actually used it doing some research for an interview because you had brought it to my attention that it was there. Super easy to look up a person and kind of see the events they attended and what they did. Yeah, super helpful. If you ever want to know like who did what and what event at what competition, you can do that through their website. And do you want to give the listeners your website?
Just at fantasyfitnessing.com, we have an athlete lookup section that you can search even like partial spellings. If you aren't totally sure how to spell their first or last name, like a couple letters will get you a list of athletes. And then we also have a competitions tab that has like the list of complete competitions if you want to go look at a competition, and then all of those comps, those athletes are linked to their profile too. So you can kind of go both ways of, oh, who got third? And then you can go via the competition and then see the athlete profile.
Right. And like you said, like when I interviewed Brent Fitkowski, I know what he's good at and what he's not good at because I'm a fan of the sport. But when I interview Olivia Sulik, she's new to the sport. She's 18 years old, but she's done some competitions, and it gave me the ability to look and see what she had done in those competitions, and which was awesome.
Awesome. That's so good.
Yeah. And so when there are those newcomers or up and comers that have done some competitions, you can kind of see what they're good at, what they're working on, where they improve. It's really a great tool.
Yeah, because especially through the sanctionals and the off-season events, there are people that are competing in them that you're not hearing about through the open. They're not making the top 5 out of the semifinals, that kind of stuff, but they are doing these competitions and have lined up against Sam Briggs and stuff like that. Like they're in the game, you just don't know them yet.
Yeah, and they may have a top 5 finish in an event. And when you're trying to pick that $20 athlete or that $10 athlete, it could be pretty handy.
Yep. Winning event helps.
Yeah. So I want to tell our listeners kind of what our plan is to work with you. If you've been with us for very long at all, you have heard that we are launching a new news show from Clydesdale Media. It's going to be called The Rig Report. And that show is going to feature as one of its segments every week through the season, fantasy fitnessing.
Yep.
So Dave and Katharine are going to produce a little weekly show kind of highlighting some of who may do well, who may not do well during open events or whatever. And they're going to do that every week.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And so we're so excited to have them. Any ideas of what kind of content you're going to include in those?
Still building it out. I think a lot of it will be, I guess, looking forward to the upcoming events. Both, being able to summarize a lot of like the past athlete data to do some comparisons in terms of, who's competing and, who might have the edge versus other people. will be a part of it. As in some of the longer periods, we might have some more fun stats types of episodes. As part of what we're working on, we're going through, so we have the competitions, we have the event history, but going through and starting to classify those events kind of along the CrossFit level 2 scorecard. So whether it's a chipper or a couplet or a triplet or a single modality type of workout, to really nerd out in the stats itself, so you can see in terms of if there's going to be 3 couplets at Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge this year, from that field, who excels in couplets or who excels in sub 5-minute workouts or those types of stats to help again from a fan's perspective. When you're there, you might know the big names, but you might not know that up and comer who is going to excel at certain events. So some data like that to bring it more to the forefront, to highlight a larger cross section of athletes that don't typically get the limelight as well.
Yeah, and a lot of it'll be driven by the games that we're running, because we'd run like an Open Madness, like March Madness style bracket for the Open, and then we move into like salary cap games. So it'll be, especially through the Open and quarterfinals, kind of looking at the athletes that we actually have in those games, because we can't have them all because it's a very, very deep field. So it'll kind of be profiling the athletes that are in the games to help people pick your teams and stuff like that. And then the in-between will be like the fun things that have sort of come up as we're setting up the games, and athletes that break onto the scene, and things that catch our eye to geek out a little bit.
Well, one thing that I haven't even talked to you guys about that I'm going to kind of announce now is we are going to go live during all the Open announcements.
Okay.
We are going to have experts on to help athletes like on how they should attack the workout based on what it is and what they're doing. But I'd love to have one of you on with your database to be able to quickly pull up like, okay, this open workout is row and wall balls. And you can let us know like what athletes do well at that, what athletes struggle with that. And we can kind of do that live on the air while we're doing it to kind of contribute to the Open announcements.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be super fun.
So yeah, now that we have the ability to go live on YouTube, we can actually do it live while the announcement is going on.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that'd be fun to be part of.
So are you guys doing the Open this year?
We haven't signed up, but yes.
We will be, yeah.
Any goals for this year's Open?
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Are we going RX?
Like, I was listening, like, to Get With the Programming podcast. I think Chase and Bill had a really good analogy of the Open doesn't necessarily, I can't remember how they describe it. So I'll scroll back and you can find it. But, basically just, if you can RX to go RX to, have that achievement and see yourself on the leaderboard versus just another workout. So I think ideally, if we are able to, or at least from my perspective, I did my first RX Open event last year. So if I could build on that. That said, I haven't worked on any of the skills like double unders or wall balls or the gymnastics movements necessary to do that. So it might be a bit of luck of the draw. Really, I don't know. We both had COVID over the Christmas break and are really just getting our stride back.
All three of us.
From a fitness perspective. So, at the same time, just going out there and being able to at least give my best is, an accomplishment at this point as well. So.
And our gym, Barracks Fitness, does like the super fun Friday night, like heats and stuff like that. So just go have some fun, maybe try an RX, and it's really just for fun.
Yeah.
But kind of competitive, but kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super excited because last year I did it in my garage. And I'm now at a new gym, and this will be my first Open with that new gym. So I'm super excited to be back a part of a community, doing the Open again. And they
It
do the
feels
same
so
thing.
good. Yeah, it's so much better to be part of like a whole bunch of people suffering through the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that I have a games athlete at my gym and get to watch her do the open is going to be pretty fun.
That's a
Yeah.
spectacle on its own.
Yeah. So, and that's the first time I've ever had that as a part of my open experience. So yeah, super stoked.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see their approach to workout versus everybody else's. I know there's, a couple athletes that were definitely top 1,000th overall from an open standpoint in our gym, and just seeing them attack the workout versus everybody else. It's quite interesting to see that level of differentiation between the level of athletes there.
Yeah, I think
to go from top 1,000 to top 50 would be, I'm sure, quite the jump.
Yeah, I think I put too much pressure on myself. And when I'm talking to athletes this year, like they're training through the open, they're not worried about the top 10% because that's not that big of a deal for them. And I think hopefully that helps me take that approach. It's just another workout, just train through it. It's nothing, it's no big deal. But I always seem to put this sense of like, on the workout. And then I go so hard and I end up hurting myself.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you're like, it is like you go in and just do one piece. Like sometimes there's 2 pieces in the workouts that we go to on a Monday. And you're like, I'm going to go do this one, but like sell my soul for not sure why, but it's what you do.
It's really hard for me to flip that switch off because,
Yeah.
I was a college athlete for a brief moment in my life, and I am very competitive, and it's very hard to shut that down. And that's why I love fantasy fitnessing, because it doesn't hurt in my joints. It doesn't hurt any of my body parts to play. And yet I can still be as competitive as I want to be.
Exactly. That's the best part about fantasy sports.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll have you back on repeatedly now that we're partnering up. And I'm super excited about that. And can't wait to see what we can grow in the future.
Yes, we look forward to being part of it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Appreciate you having us on.
Awesome. Thank you guys.